Well, in what Canberra radio host Stephen Santatiempo today described as a continuation of the purge, the local Liberals have gone into self-destruct mode just weeks from the Territory's October 19 election. 3 weeks ago, they expelled from their ticket their highest vote-getter in the northwestern seat of Ginninderra, the two-term MLA Elizabeth Kikkert. Now, a strong pro-family Conservative woman, the Liberals decided they no longer wanted her. Now, this is part of the ongoing civil war in the Liberal Party right around the nation between pro-family Liberals and so-called moderates who are not really moderate at all. Moderate in the Liberal Party means embracing radical green left policies like gender-fluid ideology and intermittent and expensive electricity. We've seen this war playing out in the federal court in Victoria, with the Liberal leader there, John Pesciuto, publicly attacking another expelled Conservative Liberal woman, Moira Deeming, for her mainstream views about girls and women and their need for private spaces and segregated sports. Now, despite the disappointment of being dumped on trumped-up allegations by the Liberals in Canberra, and treated very shabbily, I have to say, Elizabeth Kikkert decided she wanted to fight on and contest the election for families regardless. She has since joined the Family First Party, of which I have the privilege of serving as National Director. Elizabeth Kikkert joins me now. Elizabeth, welcome. For those who don't know you and don't follow ACT politics, tell us a little bit about yourself and your family and how you came into politics in the first place.
Yeah, thanks, Lau, for having me on. So I'm a mom of 5 kids. I've got 2 beautiful boys and 3 handsome girls. I've got a 23-year-old, a 20-year-old, a 21, 18 and a 16-year-old. Happily living here in Canberra. And I got into politics in 2016. I was a full stay-at-home mom with 5 small kids, and something happened within our local neighborhood that I was consistently seeing car accidents in a nearby intersection. And I called and contacted our local members to have this intersection fixed because I didn't want to see people involved in car accidents. Anyway, I received an unsatisfactory response. A week later, Lyle, there was another car accident. Wrote back to our local member, unsatisfactory response came back to me. And a week later after that, there was another car accident, but this time I saw the aftermath. I saw people stuck in the car crashed, and I couldn't help in any way but to walk up to them and see how they were doing. We were still waiting for the emergency service department to arrive. So it was a really traumatic scene for me. And I thought, okay, I got to do something here. So I decided to do a petition calling on the government to install safety measures at this intersection. And within a couple of months, I got about 1,300 signatures.
Wow.
And somebody from the Legislative Assembly saw what I was doing within the community and asked me if I wanted to stand in the upcoming 2016 election.
Well, that's fantastic,
that's how
Elizabeth.
I came into politics.
That is brilliant. You're a true grassroots campaigner. You've been there since 2016. You've served 2 terms. You're coming up to your 3rd, hopefully. You were the Liberals' top performer in the seat of Ginninderra. And for those who don't know Canberra geography, that's the northwestern suburbs of Charnwood and McGregor and these places. A tough part of town, a seat which takes in places where people aren't as affluent as the rest of the city. Why are you so passionate about your people, and why did you decide to stay in the fight after the Liberals dumped you?
Oh, I love people, Lyle. I love serving them. Yeah, I got into politics because really, in my heart, I wanted to extend my service within my family because I was a stay-at-home mom of 5 kids, and I wanted to extend that service to the rest of the community. And so that's what I think about as politicians. They are there to serve the people. So it was it was just really easy for me to get into politics because that's who my number 1 priority was to serve an individual, to serve a family, to serve the community.
Yeah, well done. I remember you very well, Elizabeth. I was living in Canberra at the time in 2016 and saw you speaking at Meet Your Candidate forums, and I was very impressed with your courage. You stood up for family, for faith, for freedom. You've always done that. And the ACT is arguably the most anti-family, anti-faith jurisdiction in the country. What was your reaction when, during this term, the Labor Green government forced the takeover of the Catholics' Calvary Hospital because it wouldn't perform abortions or euthanasia, and then they ripped the cross of Christ off that building.
It was appalling, really appalling, very poor form of governing a city for that matter. And for them to force acquisition on a property that they had 75 years contract with, and they weren't happy with the discussion that was currently happening at the time with the Catholic Church. Because they weren't happy with the discussions, they just went in there and forced acquisition on the piece of land. I was appalled by it. I was the chair of the Public Accounts Committee, and the government actually, when they introduced the bill, they made sure that this bill will not go into a committee for proper scrutinizing. So I decided to bring that bill forward anyway into my committee members and ask them if we could do a really as fast as we can, inquiry into the bill. And, I had a Labor and a Green member in my committee, which both of them turned me down. And it's a shame because they forced acquisition on the land, and they removed democracy from the process of actually, properly acquiring a bill would have to go through a proper procedure. And that requires going through a committee process. And they decided not to go through a committee process, but to shut it down.
Yeah, it was appalling. I think every person in Australia should be deeply concerned that a government can effectively steal the property of a church-run organisation when there's a clear, 75-year lease in place, as you said. Now, Elizabeth, it's well known that, financial pressure, and I just note we've got some vision of that cross coming down from Calvary Hospital. I think all freedom-loving Australians, whether you're religious or not, should be very concerned that a government could do something like this. Now, Elizabeth, it's well known that, financial pressure, cost of living is the leading cause of marriage and family breakdown, or certainly one of the leading causes. You've today announced a signature policy on behalf of Family First to address the cost of living pressure in the ACT. Let's take a look.
Canberra families, like many other Australian families, are struggling under the weight of the cost of living. As the big parties promise billions for trams and stadiums, it's Canberra families that pay the bill. They can find the money, but it is a question of priorities. Only Family First will cut rates by 50% because only we will put Canberra families first.
Authorised by Lyle Shelton on behalf of Family First Party.
So, Elizabeth, why is this so important? And I guess the question that a lot of people are going to ask, rightfully so, is how can you pay for it?
Yeah, it's really important, especially here in my electorate, Lyle, because Belconnen residents receive the lowest income out of all of Canberra households. And so they are currently paying more out of their income to pay for their bills, their rates, and their taxes. So cost of living pressure is really a big deal for the households here in Ginninderra, and that's my number one priority. So we announced this morning, Lyle, that we're going to be, if we hold the balance of power, our unconditional support to any government is to reduce the rates for households here in Canberra. And we will demand a 10% reduction in the first year, a 10% reduction every year off the term. And over the years, over the out year, it will total to be half of the rates that currently Canberra families are paying. So this is really an exciting message, Lyle, because it allows families to be saving thousands of dollars.
I think that's going to have a lot of appeal, Elizabeth. When I lived in Canberra with my young family for 10 years, the rates there tripled under the Labor Greens government. So it's high time there was a reduction in that. You can find some savings, can't you? I mean, there's some big ticket items that have been promised by both sides of politics for a jurisdiction which is effectively broke. Tell us where you think some of the savings could come from.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you have the Labor government demanding to build a $4 billion tram that goes to Woden, and then the Canberra Liberals are, pitching in for a $3 billion stadium in the city, we already have a stadium. The government has money to actually help and support families who are struggling financially at the moment. Over the last couple of years, they have wasted millions of dollars in failed HR system. They have set aside $30 million into the GMC for the last 3 years, and not a cent, Lyle, has been used. So the money is there at the moment. We just have to spend it, and we got to spend it, really effectively, and we must keep families in mind as our number one priority.
Yeah, it's a case of priorities, isn't it? I mean, you don't spend money on luxury things when you're in the middle of a cost of living crisis and families are doing it tough. Well, Elizabeth, Family First is so proud to have you on board. You've lifted the profile of the party in the ACT in ways that we could never have dreamed of in this rebuild phase of the party. We're really looking forward to getting right behind you in the lead up to October 19. And Elizabeth, with Labor and the Greens and the Liberals rejecting pro-family voices like yours, it's so important that your voice remains in the nation's most anti-family and anti-faith Legislative Assembly. Thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you, Lyle. Thank you so much.